Hello boys and girls and welcome. In this video we'll be making simple game with Python and Panda3D. Also what we'll be doing is installing VS Code on your computer because I've been told it can be a little bit easier for you to work with rather than using PyCharm, which I used to make those Python videos. Also, by the end of this video, you will be able to just to create a simple scene, put a panda in the middle of it, and use your keys to move around. It's going to be exciting time. You will have a lot to learn, and don't worry, we'll take it one step at a time, and I will be explaining everything I'm doing. Get yourself hot chocolate and let's get started. Okay, so now all I need you to do is just to click on the link I share with you in the description. It will take you to this website, and what you need to do, I'm assuming that you are on Windows 10 or Windows 11. Just click on Windows 10 or 11, click on that, and within a few seconds it should give you this pop-up window. All you need to do, just click save. It should take only a few seconds for it to be downloaded on your computer. I will just fast forward the video for you. Okay, so VS Code is now downloaded, and we can just head over to, oh, you know what? We can just simply just click on it. Just click on it and it will launch the installer. You need to click on accept the agreement and click next. You can just leave it as it is. Yeah, no changes here. Click next. Again, click next. And again, click next. And we will just finish off with install. It's really simple as that. So now it's just going to take a few seconds for it to be installed on your computer, and then we can use it. It's almost done, and we are in it. So now what we can do, just we can just leave it checked, launch VS Code, click on finish. Okay, so now what we need to do, we just need to create a folder in which our game will reside, where we will have our files. Okay, so back to your desktop. You can just minimize the editor for now. I'm on your desktop. Right click and head over to new and click on folder, and you can name it whatever you want. I will just go with Panda. Yeah, hit enter. You can just pull it aside like that, and now we can go back to our editor and open the folder. We just need to locate it where we actually created the directory, so we need to click on desktop and just double click on Panda. Then you click on select folder, and the code editor just open the directory. Okay, so now you can see that it's giving us just a blank document. What we need to do now is just basically tell the editor that we are working with Python. So hit Ctrl S and name the file, for example, main. It's completely fine, and hit enter. And we are there. We've got it. Okay, so we've got our blank document now. What we need to do though is we need to install Panda3D game engine. With Python, it's super easy. All we need to do is just to run a command pip install Panda3D from terminal. The code editor is giving us terminal by default. All we need to do is just open it up. Yeah. So let's do it together. Let's press Control and single quote. Do you got it there? Have you got your terminal? Sweet. Okay, and now what we need to do is run pip3 install Panda3D and hit enter. It will take only a few seconds. In your case, it might take a little bit longer, but regardless, you will have it within a few moments. Okay, so now Panda3D is installed on our computer, and by the way, if you get this pop-up window, I'm not getting it on my screen, but you might be getting it. Yeah, this pop-up from the code editor in bottom right corner saying that there's a extension or plugin available to install for Python. You can just go ahead and just click on it. I think it's a bluish button that says install. Just click on it. It will take only a few moments, and what it does basically is just it makes Python coding more enjoyable in the editor. So I would recommend you for just hit install. Okay, so now what we need to do, boys and girls, is to install some libraries, some modules, so we can actually work with Panda, so we can actually make games. So let's go with it. So it's from direct showbase. Notice the capitalization. Import showbase. And what the showbase class does, it encapsulates. It basically is giving us all the tools and all the functionality for making the game. We actually need it to actually make the game work. Okay, so showbase. And now, since we will be actually putting a Panda character into the scene, into that game, we need to import a class that will actually allow us to put that Panda into that scene. Okay, and it's an actor. In Panda3D speak, or terminology if you will, it's called actor, and we need to import it. Let's do it. From direct actor import actor. That's right. And now what we need to do is to import a class or import the module that will enable us to pinpoint certain points in that space, in that environment. We will need it, and that is vec3 or vector3. Okay, let's import it now, shall we? From Panda3D call import vec3. That's right. So now what we need to do is we need to create a class that will extend from the class showbase. Basically, it will enable us to actually use the showbase class to make our game. Let's do it. Class, and we can name it whatever you want, because we are basically just extending the functionality of what the showbase class can do for us. We can do with class my Panda, and we use the class showbase, double colon. And now what we need to do is we need to go with constructor. Constructor, as you probably know from my Python videos, is basically it constructs classes for us. It constructs the functionalities and attributes, or the basic functionality of each class. So we can go with def init parentheses self double colon and hit enter. Okay, so now we have our constructor, but even though we are using the showbase class to make our own class, we still need to tell Python that we actually want to use all the attributes or all the tricks that the showbase class can do for us. And if we want to do that, we need to call the constructor of the showbase class, and we do that by typing showbase initialization init self, like that. And at this point, all the tricks and all the functionality of the showbase class is available to us in our class. How great is that? Okay, so now we have all the functionality and tricks that showbase class can give us, and what we can do now is to load the environment, the greenery, the trees and the rock. We can just load it simply by calling the loader built-in method. In Panda3D, loading new assets or new images environment, it's quite easy. We can just create a new variable. Let's call it self environment, and we call the built-in method for loading, which is self loader, and we load the model like this. We use the method called load model, and within single quotes or double quotes, it's up to you. we need to tell Panda where it will find it. And even though, as of now, as you can see in the in the left column over here, all we have is just a main.py file, nothing else. But what you need to know is that once you install Panda3D on your computer, it comes with certain files by default for you to use. Yeah, just to get the feel of the game, to get feel of the engine. So we will just use the files that have been given to us. Okay. What we can do, we can just type in models. That's where those files are residing, and we need to specify environment like this. Yep. And what it does, it will load the environment into the variable called self environment. But that's not all. That's not all, because right now all it is just the environment is loaded into the variable called self environment. But we still need to do extra step. We still need to tell a Panda that we want this environment to be applied to the scene. We want to actually have it in the scene. And for that to happen, we need to call self environment reparent to, and we specify render. Yeah, reparent to is the method that will help us to actually render the environment within the scene. And render here is a built-in method that tells Panda that we want to actually apply that particular asset, which in this case is the environment of Panda, to the scene. We can hit Ctrl S to save. And if you want to see it actually happening, if you want to actually see the environment actually working, what we need to do is we need to actually run the game. And we run it by coming off the class. Boys and girls, just a side note here, okay, because you will hear me speaking about X, Y, and Z axis in this video. I want to help you understand what it actually means, what it refers to. What it really refers to is just a direction in which our model Panda will be moving in. So in the x-axis, it will move forward or backwards. In the y-axis, it moves sideways, and z-axis is moving up or down. But in our video, in this case, obviously pandas don't fly, so we won't be using z-axis at all. Just head over to this arrow right, click on it, and it will run it. And as you can see, you see like this greenery, and it looks like a bamboo trunks or something like that, right? What you can do with your mouse is with your right click, with your right button on your mouse, you can just pull up or down, and it will show you the scenery. It will show you the greenery and the environment. And you pull up again, and you can use the left and right button of your mouse just to navigate around, just to see how the environment actually looks like. So yeah, boys and girls, there you have it. We have successfully, or you have successfully loaded the environment into Panda3D, and now we can work with it. So there you have it, boys and girls. We have successfully loaded our environment into the game, into the program, but I'm not sure if you can tell, but there was something wrong about when we actually ran it and the environment. There was something wrong about the environment, and it was probably because we were basically positioned in the wrong place. The camera, which is basically what we can see within the game, the camera was in the wrong place, and the whole environment was slightly disproportional. It basically means that it was just too large. It was just too much to take, so to speak. Yeah. So what we can do in that case, we can simply scale it down a little bit and position the camera in more appropriate place. Okay. And in Panda3D, we can do it very easily. Before we actually attach that environment to the render, which we are doing here on line 11, before we do that, we we will just call certain method set scale. So self environment set scale, and we can scale it down, say to 25% of the original size of the original scaling, which in Panda3D you do like this: 0.25, 0.25, and 0.25. What this means is that we are scaling down that environment on the x-axis by 25% to 25%. Pardon me. On the y-axis, we are scaling down to 25%, and on the z-axis, we are scaling down to 25% as well. So basically, the environment isn't so huge, so out of proportion, right? Okay, and next, what we need to do something about the camera. So when we actually launch or run the game, we won't be starting in the wrong spot, in the wrong position. Okay, and in Panda3D, we do it by calling the set position method like this: self environment set position, and set position takes in again x, y, and z axis. Okay, and in our case, we can do -8 on the x-axis. On the y-axis, we can do 42. And on the z-axis, we can just leave it as it is on 0, because z-axis is up and down. And we are quite okay where we are at the moment, so we don't need to change it at all. Control S to save. And we can just run it by hitting the right arrow button over here. Click on it. And at this point, as you can see, it doesn't look so bad as as before. You can just pull the mouse again, and you can see everything looks a little bit smaller, but it doesn't look weird. It doesn't look so strange looking, right? And still, you can still enjoy the scenery. You can still enjoy all the rocks. You can see something that looks like an oak here, kind of. And yeah, it looks much better now. Yeah. So do you know what we're gonna do next? Yes, you got it. Next is Panda, the Panda character, and we need to load it into our program. Just like we did with an environment, we need to plug it in. We need to do the same thing with the Panda character, and we need to use the actor class. Let's do it. Self. We can use the Panda variable, and we use the actor class, and it takes in the location of the model. Yeah, and again, Panda3D is giving us a model by default. We just need to specify it. Models. I think it's Panda model. Yeah, that's right. Panda model, like that. And the second parameter is a dictionary of animations. Like, for example, if the character has animated aspects or animated files, yeah, we can supply it, we can put it in, and Panda will use it. So it's a dictionary, so curly braces, and the first key of the dictionary needs to be the keyword, basically the verb. It's the verb. So in our case, it's walk. And the value is, we need to specify where the model is. So it's models again, and Panda, let me see, I think it's Panda walk 4. That's right, Panda walk 4. And what we will need to do is also give it idle because Panda doesn't walk all the time, right? When we are moving around with our keys, it will be moving. It will be basically running the Panda animation when she walks, right? But if you don't press any key, that means that the Panda isn't going anywhere, and we don't want Panda to walk, right? We just want it to be idle, just to stand basically. So we need to tell Panda3D how to do it. Idle, and we can just give it models, Panda model, like that. It's basically the default image or default character, if you will. And next, what we need to do, we need to scale it down again, because if we reparent, or if we attach the Panda to our scene, it will be big, just way too big again. So what we will do, we will just scale it down to 5%. Self Panda, if I can, yep, set scale, and we can do 0, 1.5, which is 5%. This is for the x-axis, the same thing for the y-axis and for the z-axis. That's right. And what we can do now, we can actually attach it to the scene with self Panda reparent to render. Control S to save, and we can run it. So we can just zoom out a little bit, and we can see indeed Panda is there. Let me just put the full screen, and we can see the Panda is indeed there. It's just standing there. It's not doing anything because we didn't tell Panda to actually do something. Okay, you can exit out of there. Okay, so but now we need to let Panda know when to move the Panda character inside the environment, right? And for that, we need something that's called handler. We need to actually handle their movement somehow. And one of the easiest way to actually do this is to create a dictionary of movements, and we can do that like this. We create a variable self key map, and it's a dictionary. So I will create it as a dictionary with curly braces, and within the key map I will just basically make a key value pairs of different keystrokes. So for example, my Panda will be moving towards, or forward I should say, forward, which means on the keyboard it will be up. It will be going backwards, which means that on the keyboard it will be arrow down, or it will be one of those letters WSAD, right? On the left, if I want the Panda to move left, I will probably just map that movement to a key A. And on the right, I will map that key to the letter or the key D. Let's do it. So up will be false by default, because Panda3D will be checking if we actually press the button or not, or if we press the key. But by default it needs to be false. Up, down, false. Left is false, and right is false. And next, what we need to do is create a variable that basically we will be checking if the Panda is walking or not. Because when it's not walking, we need to tell Panda now the Panda is not walking, and we need to run the idle animation. Is Panda walking? And by default is false. Next thing we need to do is create a new method which Panda3D will be using to check if certain things are happening while the game is running. Basically, it will be checking like if we are pressing any buttons, or if Panda is doing certain things. And for that to happen, we need to actually create an update method, and we do it like this: def update self, and we pass in the task. And within the update, we need to tell Panda what we want to be, what we want Panda to check, what we want the program to check for certain things to happen. Okay, but what we need to do now before we go any further is to create a variable dt, or delta time, and how it will serve us is the we need to tell Panda the right timing for certain actions. Because if we don't give it, this information, this piece of information, and we'll be pressing certain buttons, the timing will be wrong, it will be incorrect, and there's a good chance that it will result in a Panda making inappropriate movements because it will be completely out of timing, out of the game basically. So we create the variable dt for delta time, and we assign it as a result or return value from the global clock, which is the built-in method, by the way, global clock, and we call the get dt, which is get delta time. And every single time when Panda3D runs this update method, it will check for the right timing. And now what we can do is we simply check for certain keystrokes. If self key map, if it's true, if the movement up, which you can see by default is false, but once we once we press up button or the W key, it will be changed to true. And in that case, when it's true, we want Panda to move forward. So what we will do, we will call the self Panda variable, and we will set a new position, set position. And what we want now is basically we want to supply or give it the current position where the Panda is at the moment, at that very moment, but we want to slightly change it. So what we will do, we will just give it self Panda get position, and we will supply it with a new position that is slightly different, vector 3, and now the new position, which in this case, if we want to move it forward, we need to actually decrease on the x-axis, which is minus 5.0. And if you are asking yourselves like why 5.0, it's an arbitrary number that simply works for the sake of example. The number can be higher, it can be lower, yeah, but I found that this value will really work for our example for this game. But it's a very arbitrary number, yeah. And we need to multiply it by the dt value, by the information we have in the dt variable. So this is the x. On the y, we will do minus 20. And again, we need to multiply by dt, by delta time value, or the piece of information. And on the z-axis, we can just leave it on 0 because the Panda isn't flying, it isn't going up and down. It's just the x and y axis. So that's that. But this only checks if we press the up button. If we, button. It is button, but key, okay. So this, as of now, it only checks if we press the W button or the up button. But we've got 3 different ones, right? We've got, I should say 4. You've got up, down, right, and left. So that means W, S, A, D. So we need to check for the other directions as well. If self key map, and we go with down this time. So now we are checking if the down key will be true or not. If it's true, we can again, pretty much we can just copy paste it. That's right. We can copy paste it, but the values will be slightly different. So in this case, what we need to do is we won't be decreasing on the x-axis, but we will be increasing on the x-axis. So basically what you can do is simply just remove the minus, the negative sign, because we are not decreasing, we are increasing this point. So you can leave it as it is, just take off those minuses. Next, we need to handle the left and right. So if self key map and the left is true, again we can just copy paste it. And at this point, what we need to do is, I found that 10 is actually what will do the trick for us. 10.0, 10.0, and for the y-axis, it's going to be 0 as well, just like that. Next, if self key map right, and if the right is true, we can copy paste again, and this time we'll need to decrease on the x-axis by 10. Notice that I'm again multiplying by the information that is in the t variable, and the other y and z axis we'll just leave it on zeros, because we are not changing them, we are just changing the x-axis left, right. Alrighty, and now what we need to do is for every single task, basically the update as it will be ran every single time on every single cycle, every single loop, we need to tell Panda that we want to actually run it continuously over and over, because if we leave it as it is right now, it will run it just once. It will run it just once. So if we want the Panda3D program to be running continuously, checking for any movements, for any keystrokes, we need to tell it that we want to run it continuously. So return task cont, and that way it will be running over and over and over every half second or something like that. At this point, by looking at the code, you might be asking yourself, and what makes these values go true? Because at the moment they are just false by default, but there's nothing that will ever make it true. You are right about this one. Let's change it. And we will need another function, and we can call it handle movement. Take self, and this function will be taking two parameters. One parameter is the state, and the other one will be the movement. Or we should go with the value, yeah, because it will be true or false, and the state will be basically if it's going up or down. So yeah, that should be the movement actually. Yeah, let's do it. Movement. That makes more sense, doesn't it? And inside this function, what we'll be doing, we'll be changing those values inside this key map. So let's do it. And we need to do it dynamically. We won't be doing one by one. We do it dynamically. So self key map, and within square brackets, we are passing in which key and value we want to change, right? So we need to pass in that movement we are passing into this function. So you can just Control C, or you can just copy paste it. It doesn't matter. Movement like that, and we assign it a new value. The value we are actually passing into that method. And now you're probably noticing that actually in the code, even though we want WSAD keys to be the keys that actually control that Panda movement, right? But we are not specifying anywhere in that code. There's no WSAD mentioned at all, right? And you're right. Yeah, we need to actually tell Panda that to accept these keys as controls. Yeah, let's do it. We can do in the constructor or initializer. Yeah, and I will just add another line saying self accept, and we want it to accept W. That will be passed into self, and we named it. Let me just double check again. We named it handle movement. Handle movement, and we need to pass it a list of values. And as you can tell from here, we need to pass the movement and value. So W is up, right? So we just specify up, and the second value will be true, because when we are pressing W, we want Panda to move forward. And as far as Panda3D is concerned, it is up. That's up. And now we just need to basically copy paste, or we need to replicate those lines for different movements. Let's do it. So we need for down, left, and right, and we need to change these. Letters. The reason why I'm going over this line is because we also need to specify what we want to do if we are not pressing the button, if we are releasing the key. And if we are releasing the key, in this example is the W, we need to assign it false to let Panda know that we have actually released the key and we want Panda to stop. And the same thing for the other directions. So for S, that's a down, and it's true. And now we want to make it false by giving up attribute, self-arm movement, and false. So now we handled forward and backwards. Now we need to handle left and right. Let's do it. So we need two more for pressing and releasing. So A is for left, right? Now we need to give it false for releasing the key. It's left, and we give it A up, because that's how Panda3D actually understands it. If we give it A or whatever the key is with dash up, it understands that we are checking for releasing the key. And now we need D and D up, and it is the right. It is right. So right, true for pressing and false for releasing. My bad. Right. Okay, so we've got movements, but now we have probably noticed that actually we've got this update method, but we are not calling it anywhere. Like when in an initializer, everything's being initialized, all the variables, we've got this dictionary, the scaling, and attaching different assets or different models to the scene, but nothing is calling the update method. And that's a good point, yeah. So we need to fix it now, and we need to actually, we can't do just self update and just call it like that. Why? Because it will be called only once. It will be called only once, and in Panda, that's not the way to do it. In Panda, what we need to do, we need to use a task manager. It's a built-in method for scheduling tasks. So we use task. We use we just create another variable. We can call it check for movement, and we give it the return value from self task manager. And what we need to do, we need to actually add a new task. First is the task itself. So we need to specify this update method. So we do self update. The second parameter is we can just give it name for the task. And it's very arbitrary. We can just give it update. It doesn't really matter at this point. And that's about it. Yeah. So now if you hit Ctrl S, it will run the update method every frame. And you know what? Now is the perfect time just to check how far we have gone. So what we have actually done, right? So now you can just click on the right arrow button up here, click on it, and it will run the game. We can just enlarge it, make it full screen, and we can see that we've got our panda here. And if you press WSAD, you can see it actually moves left, right, forward, and backwards. Beautiful, isn't it? Awesome stuff. But you do also notice, or I'm noticing that actually it's basically standing there, and we are just moving around, almost as if the panda is paralyzed or something. So we need to just give it animation. We need to actually make it walk. The model, we need to make it walk when we are pressing the buttons, right? So let's do it now. We can exit out of this. And now what we want to do, every single time, or every time when we press a key button, when we want So if we want actually for our panda to walk when we press appropriate button, appropriate key, we need to actually address it here. So what we're gonna do is first we will check if panda isn't working already, because if we don't put this check in place, it will be basically calling the function over and over and over. Let me show you what I mean. Because we need to get panda working by self panda loop, and we need to loop that animation that we have specified here. See, we've got walk and idle. So we need to specify walk. or we need to call walk, and it will walk every single. It will call this function make Panda walk every single time. But you can see probably the problem with this. It means that every single time we press the up, or in our case is W. Every single time we press W, it will call this loop function. This is problematic because it will be basically initiating the animation over and over and over, which will look very strange. So to avoid that, we will check for it. First, what we will do is we will change the value of is Panda walking and give it to true. So at this point, we call the loop function Panda is actually walking, and we change the value is Panda walking to true. And now what we can do is we will check for it. If not, so Panda is Panda walking. So if it's false, if Panda isn't already walking, we will make it walk. We will call the function. And if it's already walking, we don't need to call the function anymore, right? It's pointless. And now we just need to indent it correctly, like that, because it's a if else statement or block. So we need to indent it like that, and it will call this function, this loop function, only when Panda isn't walking already. That's exactly what we want. And this, now what we need to do, we need to copy it for each and every movement. For down, left, and right. Alrighty, so now Control S to save, and we can run it. Now let's see. So as you can see, now we have Panda walking. She actually walks. Wonderful! Super. But that introduces another problem here. Can you see, boys and girls? I'm not pressing any buttons. I'm not pressing any keys right now, and Panda keeps walking. It's sort of like it just keeps walking on the spot, right? Which isn't very natural. So obviously we need to make another change. We need to put in place a check, a code that will stop the Panda when no keys are pressed. Okay, let's exit out of this. And next, what we will do, we'll create another method, the function here. Def for definition, and we can call it check for stop. Yeah, check for stop. That will do it. Self to indicate the instance, and task again, because we will put it into the task manager as another method to be checked. Okay, so now what we are checking, boys and girls, here we are checking basically if these values are false or true, because if up, down, left, and right is false, that means that we are not pressing any buttons. And that means that we can actually make the Panda stop when all these are false. Let's check for it. So, if not self key map up, and see, this is if else statement, where we want to check for multiple conditions, if they are true or false. And if they are all true, or if they are all false, we want to run certain action, or we want to take certain action. And not self key map down, and not self let me just put it to underline and not self key map left, and last one is right, so self key map right. So basically I'm saying here, if all the movements, every single one, up, down, left, right, if they're all false, then I want okay, let me just take this off. I don't want this. Okay, sorry about that. And now what we want to do, we want to stop Panda from walking, right? So we will do self Panda loop, and we want idle, just like that. And let's not forget that this is the method that the task manager will be using, which means that we need to let it know that we want to run this method continuously over and over and over. Return task count. You might be asking why this block of code, why this check isn't in this update method. And that's a valid question. That's a very valid question, because it could be there. However, after I actually experimented with this idea myself, I realized that actually the program was misbehaving. It wasn't actually doing what I intended it to do. Essentially, what was happening is this check, this code, wasn't allowing Panda to start walking to begin with. Yeah, so basically, the method, the update method, was misbehaving. It was giving me it wasn't doing what I was intended to do. So for that reason, I came up with this. Obviously, I still need to pass that method into task manager. Let's do it. Self check for stop, and again I need to specify the task manager add, and the first parameter is the method itself, which is if I can spell right, check for stop. Name can be just stop, yeah, why not? And there's an optional argument or optional parameter that we can pass it into this task manager, and it is a delay. Basically means how often we want this method to be checked or to be ran, right? And if I just leave it as it is, it will be running every frame. But in my case, I don't want it to look at frame. I want to look at seconds. So I will specify delay, and I want every second. Delay equals 1. Control S to save. But there's one more thing that we have forgotten to do here, and it is we haven't changed, or I haven't changed this variable in the right moment. Yeah, because what happens here, I'm making Panda to stop, but right afterwards this code is ran, and it makes it true again. So basically what I need to do, once I start looping idle, I need to change the variable is walking to false. Self is Panda walking false. Okay, so now it should work the way it's supposed to. Okay, Control S to save, and let's run it. And Panda is walking up, left and right, forward and backwards. And let's see if the Panda will stop when I stop pressing keys. I notice I made a mistake here, and it's this line, because it's not supposed to be loop idle, it's supposed to be just stop. That way we will actually stop the animation. Let's run it now. let's see, and we pressing the keys, and Panda is walking around. And let's see if Panda will stop working when I stop pressing keys. Indeed, yeah. Let's walk again. Yep. Panda keeps walking and I stop pressing keys now. Wonderful. Good stuff. Good stuff. That's exactly what we wanted. And now it's a quiz time. What class do you need to import if you want to make a game with Panda3D? And it's a show base. What method do you need to use if you want to change position of a model or asset? And it's the setPos method with X, Y, and Z coordinates inside. What method do you need to call on your imported model if you want your model to be included in the scene? And it's the reparent2 method. What do you need to do if you want all the functionality of the showBase class to be available at the start of your game? And it's the showBase initializer. It's the showBase.init method. What data structure actor class takes in for using animations? And it's a dictionary. So boys and girls, how did you do? Did you enjoy the video? Did you manage to make Panda walk and follow your keystrokes? WSAID. This is absolutely amazing video. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and feel free to share it with with other boys and girls, with your friends. Yeah, and I will see you next time. Bye.